everyone, I'm Sue and welcome to Sue Designs, where I bring you fast, fun, and adorable projects. Today I'm going to teach you how to make the sewing version of the Easy Point and Turner pouch. If you love machine embroidery, notions, and all things sewing, be sure to subscribe below and don't forget to click the little dinger button. This will give you alerts every time I upload a new video. And if you're not sure what an Easy Point and Turner is, in the description below is a link that'll bring you right to the video that shows you everything there is to know about the Easy Point and Turner. In order to make the Easy Point and Turner pouch, which is a sewing pattern, you're going to need to go get the pattern from my website. The link is in the description below. Once you have your pattern, print out the pieces, print the instructions, grab your machine, and let's get stitching. Cut your materials according to the instructions and go ahead and gather all of your tools and notions needed for this project. Cut and tape the two foundation pieces together, aligning the hash marks to create one foundation piece. With the front batting fusible side facing down, I go ahead and transfer my foundation template lines to my batting piece. I found the easiest way to do this was just to go ahead and pin that template right to your batting. And then I prefer to use my Daylight Wafer 1 light box because this way I can really see through the batting onto that foundation piece. Just take your time, draw all your markings, use a nice sharp marking pen, and go ahead and grab your ruler as well when you're ready to connect all of the lines. And once you're finished, you can just go ahead and remove all of the straight pins and that foundation template. Reference your foundation template for the numbers that were on those pieces, and this will help you when you're doing the color blocking. The first thing you're going to do is over area number 1, you're going to place, in this case it's this green buttons, right side facing up. Now right side facing down, you're going to place what would be area number 2. I like to use my light box and my pressing tool and some straight pins, and when I do this I can kind of really get a good idea. See, if I fold area number 2 piece over, I can make sure that it's covering all of the lined areas. Once I'm comfortable with where it's placed, all I do is transfer the marks to that area number 2 fabric, the wrong side, and then just use my straight pins. I like to use my marking pen and my ruler, make sure it's really lined up. And then we're going to sew it. At your sewing machine, just set up a regular straight stitch with standard thread and sink your needle right in at the beginning top of that seam. Sew straight over that line and sew exactly to the end of the bottom of the seam. Once you're finished stitching, you can open up that second piece of material, make sure it covers all the seam, and let's go back to the cutting board. I'm actually going to go ahead and open up that seam and cut it down to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. With paper piecing, you always want to make sure that you have a nice small piece of bulk inside the seam. Press your seam flat, open it, and then press it again. And perfect, you have completed section number 1 and number 2. And now we're just going to keep at it. Now let's go ahead to section number 3, exactly the same thing, and this time I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm laying my material of number 3 directly over that seam with the right side facing down, and I'm drawing the line right onto the material. And just to make sure everything lays good, I'm going to use my straight pins to basically kind of like fake sew that seam, and then open it up, make sure it covers all my areas. And now it's time to sew right down that seam. Once you've sewn that next seam, go ahead and repeat the same process of cutting your seam allowance down to a 1/4 inch, pressing it flat, pressing it open. And with paper piecing, it's kind of a constant making sure that you've covered all of your areas. So just make sure you've done that, and you can continue the process with the next material. Now this is a little darker material, so I'm actually going to go ahead and use a lighter marking pen. And hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit better. There you go. It makes it easier when I'm stitching as well. Continue with the same process for area number 4. Just transferring those markings And what's really cool about paper piecing, and especially with the light box and your marking tools, the accuracy is amazing every time that material lays right where you want it to. And we're going to do it one more time, cutting that seam allowance down to 1/4 of an inch, pressing it flat, pressing it open. And now I'm going to fast forward all the way to the very final area number 7. Now that you're finished with all 7 areas of the paper piecing, it's time to transfer the foundation piece back over to the front. And all we're really doing is we're just making sure all the lines on the foundation template do truly align with the paper piecing that you've done. And it's really rewarding when you get to this point and like, yes, it all worked. So good job. What we're going to do now though is just very simply transfer the outside of that foundation area. Use the various color markers or marking pens that you have to make sure that you can really see what it is that you're transferring, because we're going to need this line throughout the rest of the project. Once you're finished transferring those outside marks of the foundation template, just put some straight pins in the larger areas, and this way as you're sewing over this line, they don't kind of flip-flop around. Then you're going to want to go to your sewing machine and you're going to want to sew a basting stitch between 3 and 4 millimeters and sew directly on top of the mark. Now it's time to create the pocket. Fold your pocket in half by height and press wrong sides together. On one half, fuse the pocket fusible batting to the wrong side. Keep an eye on the side of the print, like the direction of the print. Make sure that the print is going in the right direction and that the fusible is on the side facing up. Now it's time to place that pocket on your front. With the right side facing down, you're going to go ahead and place that fold kind of in the center of what was originally piece number 6. You're going to mark a 1/2 of an inch inside of that basting stitch and at least 6 inches long. This is going to be the construction stitch that holds the pocket to the front. Pin it in place and then go to your sewing machine and back stitch at the top and sew directly onto that line, and then back stitch at the bottom. Now place the front lining directly over all those seams and then place the front foam directly over top of that and pin in place. And you're going to be sewing a 1/2 inch inside from the original basting stitch. Sew all the way around except for that 6-inch pocket front area that we created. That will be the turning area. Cut a 1/4 of an inch around the outside seam except for the opening and leave at least 3/4 of an inch. Go ahead and remove the foam from the seam and grade your seam allowance, which is a really great trick for any project that has a lot of bulk in the seams. And of course, use your easy point and turner and turn your case right side out. Just fold the little seam over, clamp it, and turn it. Once you get it going, you can use your fingers to kind of smooth out the one side and then go in from the other direction using that easy point and turner once again. Now it's time to add the snap. Now you're only going to add the snap on the outside portion and just kind of fold it over and figure out where to place it. It's about 3/8 of an inch from the top seam. You can find the center and use your pen to mark it, and then of course just keep positioning it until you find the place you really want it. Now use your awl to puncture through that lining and the foam, but don't go through all the layers. Place the first snap, and this is going to be inside the foam area, and it's going to be the flat end. Puncture it through to the other side, and we're going to be using the male side of the snap. This will be the one that snaps on top of the outside. Following your snap tool manufacturer instructions, go ahead and slip the tool over this area and then just take your time. It's kind of bulky, so it's going to be a little awkward at first, but once you get it in there, just clamp down really, really tight and set that snap. Now it's time to hand stitch the opening closed. Anytime I'm sewing something that's going to be used a lot, I like to sew it with 4 threads. That basically means I take 2 strands of thread, go through the eye of the needle with both of the strands, and then double knot it at the very end. That means there's 4 threads. I call this a double thread though. But basically what you're going to do is just tuck your seam allowances inside the area. Go ahead and use some Wonder clips or however you want to secure that in place. and then use whatever basic stitch you want. Personally, I just use a slip stitch, and I don't make it really perfect or anything. I just want it to be really secure. And I'm using a darker color thread just so that you can see kind of what I'm doing in my stitches, but ideally you don't want your stitches to be shown through the other side, and you would want to use a matching thread. Once you're finished stitching, go ahead and tie a double knot, clip that thread off, and let's give our case a really good press. Once you're finished pressing, turn your case right side out, and of course use your easy point and turner to help this get along a little faster. Then we're going to go ahead and press one more time on the outside and get your seams all flat. Then let's get back to our snap, and we can make sure by the placement just by putting your easy point and turner inside your case, and follow the same steps as you did earlier, except this time we're going to use the female snap. You can also use the stand when we're working with the snap for this side. It's a little easier to get in there. And you're all finished. Make sure it fits, and there we go. So how much fun was that? I cannot wait to see which colors and materials you use on your very cool easy point and turner pouch. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, join my weekly newsletter, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, and of course, come have fun with us over at my Facebook fan club. All of this will be in the description below. And until I see you next time, I hope you have a creative day. Bye-bye. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe below. And don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. Have a creative day. Bye-bye.